One Punch Man Chapter 102, Amai Mask. Yep, it's just called Amai Mask, similar to how Chapter 101 was called Zombie Man, and I guess this might be a recurring theme for the next couple chapters, simply because we are just establishing these S-Class heroes, which really haven't been established before this point. I mean, we know them, of course, we know the legend behind them, but we haven't really seen them get their hands dirty yet. So we're really just getting acclimated to them at this point, because this is really only just the beginning for what is to come with these characters. So this chapter surprisingly starts off with Pig God, and we're seeing what's going on in his side of the world, and he's running into the Great Food Tub, one of the few demons of the Monster Association left at this point. You know, we're just going to be running into the rest of the demons at this point, because that's all that's really left outside of the executives. And we haven't really seen too much of the Great Food Tub. I think the only chapter he has been in is chapter 89. I could be wrong, but I think that's it. When we see him run into Royal Ripper and Tario, and he wants to eat Tario, but is confronted by G5, and G5 like throws him a little fodder monster snack, you know, in the process saving Tario. So that's, you know, further pushing the narrative that G5 is most likely Drive Knight, because, you know, why would he just randomly want to save Tario? But that's a whole nother discussion for another time. But regardless, I really wouldn't expect too much of this confrontation here, because we're only literally getting 3 panels of them in this chapter. So, you know, expect this to be like recurring with Pig God and the Great Food Tub. I'm not spoiling anything, of course, but just based off of this, like, maybe this will be wrapped up in the next chapter, or maybe the chapter after that, but don't expect like Pig God to get his own dedicated chapter like how Zombie Man and what we could assume Amai Mask is getting here. And also, surprisingly, Atomic Samurai's disciples are in this chapter, and this isn't really how things played out in the webcomic, so this is all new territory here, and it's pretty cool. But I honestly think this is kind of just establishing that, hey, don't forget about, you know, his disciples. They are still down here, guys, and they're going to be in this fight along with the other Strike Team members. But it's also establishing 2 things. So it's letting us know that they are on their own now. They're not with Atomic Samurai. He is not backing them up here. And also, it's showing us how powerful Narinki's private squad, under the control of Super S, along with the organizational power suits, are. Because, you know, they immediately run into them, and they're essentially just the litmus test for these guys, because we have to establish how powerful they are. We have to establish that they are not just fodder, they're not chumps. So let's get a little more into that, because when they initially start clashing with them, Bushidrill's like, oh, such power, and then E-Iron's like, a direct hit will break our swords, and this is pretty accurate, because we have to remember that when we first see the Paradisers, you know, way back in the beginning of the series, like, just those grunts, those fodder dudes wearing these organizational parasuits were able to straight up bust buildings. Like, yeah. And while the feats of power in the beginning of the series might have been a little amplified, I still think the continuity is staying true here, because, you know, these are the top of the A-class, so these guys are pretty damn formidable. They're almost like pseudo S-class heroes, something like that. I mean, they're way above the other A-class heroes in my opinion, especially E-Iron. And also, like, busting buildings is straight up demon level feats. So I'm not saying that Narinki's private squad with the power suits under Super S's control are demons. Collectively, for sure, all of them together is absolutely a demon level threat. Maybe all of them on their own are like high tigers, maybe above tigers, who knows. But regardless, like, they have demon level strength. So, you know, I'm not saying they're necessarily as formidable as a demon, because that would be a little ridiculous, you know, them taking on, you know, all kinds of demons. There's like 7 of Narinki's private squad members here. So that would be like 7 demons along with Super S, who we can assume is, you know, most likely a high demon, you know, in her own specific way. So let's get to the awesome moment of this chapter, and that is, of course, the introduction of Amai Mask. He is here, and we are finally getting into my boy. Amai Mask is one of my favorite heroes in this series. I love this character so much, and I know he is, you know, he's hard to swallow. You know, take that for what you will. He is a very complex character, honestly. And on the surface, he is unlikable. He's unruly. But beyond that, there is a reason why he is the way that he is. And I just really like this character. I think he is very well made. I think he's actually one of the best written characters that one has made in this series, just in my opinion. So aside from that, I think this chapter, and I'm talking about 102 as a whole, this is definitely only the first part of it. There are going to be updates to this, as the weeks go on. But I think this chapter as a whole might be like somewhat of a redeeming chapter for Amai Mask. So I don't think he's outright going to turn face. I don't really think that's ever going to happen, most likely. But it is going to show us that Amai Mask is a hero. After all, he's not a villain. And, maybe he's an anti-hero. Maybe he's an anti-villain. That's a discussion for another time. But I really expected him to be a little more berating of Atomic Samurai's disciples here. But that's not really the case. He's kind of supportive to them. And, while he's not exactly, coddling them and whatnot. I mean, don't expect that from Amai Mask. But he's like, look, guys, I'll take care of this. This is a little too much for you guys to handle. And also, if you're going to just wind up getting brainwashed and go over to their side, you're straight up going to be disrespecting Atomic Samurai. And I like this. He's showing respect to Atomic Samurai, and he's somewhat showing respect to his disciples, too, because I assumed that maybe he was going to be like, get out of here, you weaklings. I'll take care of this. This is, you're beneath me and whatever not. But he doesn't do that. He's somewhat respectful, like I said, and I like that. And this is making me think that, we're going to kind of get somewhat of a redemption to Amai Mask here to make him somewhat likable. But on top of that, when he does ask them to leave and say that he's going to take care of things by himself, the disciples are a little hesitant. It's like, are you sure, bro? Are you sure you can take this guy down? We've got like 7 powerful dudes here on top of like a borderline high demon and Super S. I mean, this might be a little too much for you. He's like, nah, don't worry. I got this. I'm not going to get brainwashed. And let me just skip the exposition. Let me just say that it would be more convenient for me if you weren't around. So what exactly does that mean? Well, without going into spoilers, I'm just going to assume that Amai Mask doesn't want people to really see him go all out. Because also we have to remember that back in chapter 94, when he one-hands that huge piece of debris, Darkshine is like, ooh, how rare. And that's referring to just Amai Mask showing feats of power at all, which we could assume is rare, because based on what he is saying in this chapter, he doesn't really want people to watch him do his business, essentially. And let us also remember, whenever Amai Mask gets pissed off, he becomes, kind of monstery. We see his eyes change, he gets real vascular, especially in the neck, and his demeanor changes overall, and he becomes very ominous. So that could play into why he doesn't really want anyone to see him get serious, go into full-blown fighting mode, because maybe they would think that it's unbecoming of him, or maybe it would raise questions as to what the hell is going on with him, because, on the outside, he's this idol. He's this superstar pretty boy. But when he starts going into battle mode, he becomes almost like a monster, so we'll see what happens. But unfortunately, it ends as he's about to encounter Super S, and all I can say is that this next chapter is going to be awesome, and I can't wait. Or should I say the next update to this chapter, because like I said, this is definitely only the first part of this. And if you were a little disappointed in how short it is, let us remember that there's only a week since chapter 101. So this is actually pretty accurate to what a weekly update would be if we did get weekly updates for One Punch Man, because this is about 15 pages, and 15 pages is essentially what we get from the weekly Jump chapters, like My Hero and One Piece. So all I'll say is just expect the next update of this chapter to be Amai Mask's coming out party. And man, like I said, I personally cannot wait. I love Amai Mask, and I just really want to see his manga feats on display, because damn, man, we need to establish this guy. And, like how Zombie Man just got a whole bunch of new fans in chapter 101, I fully expect Amai Mask to get a whole legion of new fans. after chapter 102 has wrapped up. But other than that, that's pretty much it for the chapter, guys. Let me know what you think about Amai Mask. Where do you think this is going? What do you think is going to happen with Big God and the Great Futov? And let me know what you think about Atomic Samurai's disciples. What do you think is going on with them? I mean, of course, all of you guys who've read the webcomic know what's going to happen. But those of you who haven't, let me hear what you think, because maybe things could change. Because like I said, the beginning of this chapter with the disciples and whatnot is, different from what happened in the webcomic. But, regardless, let me hear your thoughts on the first part of this chapter. And if you like the video, please give it a like. I also have a Patreon. It starts at $2 and it gives you access to a Q&A. And if you haven't already, please subscribe as well. Have a great day. I'll see you in the next one.